Almost every vault in Fallout is horrifying, because that's the point. They were full of experiments meant to test what people would do in horrible situations, but there are some that are so bad that they couldn't even finish them. So, with that cheerful note out of the way, let's go traumatize ourselves. Vault 114. We land straight into Fallout 4, and the loading screen tells us a bit about this vault, and by chance can actually spoil a bit of the exploration here. As stated in the title, this is one of the many unfinished Vault-Tec vaults, and this one is located in the Back Bay neighborhood of Boston in 2287. Let me add something here for a discussion very active from time to time when something new about the Fallout universe arises. If Vault-Tec had or not launched the bombs. The unfinished vaults, in my opinion, give a strong point to the team that says that Vault-Tec, being far from being innocent, are actually blameless for the first bombs. Why would they nuke everything if some of their vaults weren't finished? I mean, we all know about the twisted experiments they did on most of them, so why wasting a semi-finished space? Also, the loading screen tells us a bit. Before the war, Vault-Tec began construction of Vault 114 inside Boston's Park Street subway station. The project was never completed, but that matters little to the gangsters who have taken up residence there. In my opinion, if you already find this vault, then nothing happens. But if you did not, at the time that tip appears, then is a bit of a letdown to already know kinda what to expect if you enter this vault, and is one of my favorite parts of this saga, as the vaults in the vast majority are some of the creepiest places and you never know what to expect. Some really empty one with a lot of strange sounds, or one filled to the brim with mutants. Maybe one with a bit of both, or one filled with the previous vault dwellers dead by unknown causes, and it's up to you to determine them, or solve the mystery. Accessed through Park Street Station, the objective of the Vault 114 was to house Boston upper class, so whole rich families were supposed to live here. Another different aspect that is a bit suspicious is that this space was constructed, or at least the partial part of it, via a third-party contractor. We don't know much about them besides them having the project. Local and state governments of the most pure high rank were accepted as part of this social experiment. Also local luminaries and business people too, but mostly heavily economically successful people in the scope. Another fact was that the already selected and future members of the Vault were also made aware of the fact that they would be cohabiting with people similar in power and wealth to them, for the better or the worst. Now, this being partially constructed and full of rich people didn't stop Vault-Tec of designing new experimentations here. The first twist, avoided by me to maximize the impact, was that plus of giving info about living with other people with similar wealth also had a bit of misleading info or purposely avoided clarifications. The Vault was presented as an extremely luxury one, with the commodity at hand reaching for all those that were supposed to be of superior wealth, false in fact that was highly exaggerated, or a scam some could say. Another thing was that additional to the residents, some families, multiple in fact, were also chosen in a random scheme, people that were assigned to live in single-room apartments. Those random people also had to dine and bathe in shared quarters, amenities being minimal in general, but this is not all. We also have to talk about the Overseer. Authorities that had to choose the Overseer had a superior order. The personnel had to interview only people with zero supervisory or government experience and zero or close to zero authority bias, effectively destroying many viable possibilities of actual good candidates for the position. The chosen one was a curious man with no name, a man only called Soup Can Harry, and yeah, he refused to provide his name. He thought that those were ranks and numbers branded by the government. Also had strong beliefs over the government using taxes to fund Illuminati-free Mason sex parties. Effectively checking all the boxes, he was presumably homeless, so he implied that he slept in dumpsters and had eaten Abraxo cleaner before, but still he only had his word for proof. Vault-Tec said that he was the perfect example of what they needed for an overseer. When they offered the position to him, cautioned that he wouldn't wear a goddamn tie or pants, and the employees were specifically told that they didn't undermine the new overseer authority at all during, and especially even if it caused some kind of discomfort, physical or mental, embarrassment, or harm to the residents. At this point, one of the points of the experiment was to show and study the reactions of people being subjected to extremely dangerous incompetence or an overseer, and how they would react to stressful situations. The idea was all set, the people and overseer were chosen, but still the vault was ultimately never finished. The construction equipment, even 210 years after, is still scattered around the Park Street station, and the dugout cave connecting to the entrance shows serious decayed signs. For the moment, we can explore. Some mobsters had already taken over the place, and it's actually an unavoidable quest, as there lies Nick Valentine. design. In the game, you can actually hear some chats between the Triggermen discussing the origins of Vault 114. One of them has remarks on the impracticality of installing a vault into the train station. Another one also points out that they were probably never planning to use the vault and was a scam to maintain workers in the payroll, while the real construction was elsewhere. Choosing simple words to explain the whole plan of the vault, they only accepted people of upper-class residents with tricks and treason, and then stripped them of comforts and luxury, so we can confidently say that this vault was the inversion of class privilege. Now we are traveling to Vault 13's original location, the unfinished cave of Vault 13. Unfinished Vault 13, a really simple zone that shows us that Vault-Tec projects weren't near perfect. By design, they were planning the original here, but late abandoned. Following that, Vault 13 was actually completed before the war. This shows that at some point this was abandoned and the explosions had nothing to do. We cannot find any proof of why this happened, so all this is pure speculation. This zone isn't big. It is more like a small cave with construction signs. For what we can see, it was originally a planned vault constructed by the Vault Tessie Corporation. Originally appearing in Fallout 2, this was prior to the Great War, a cave designed to become a vault. The location of the cave can be learned from a holodisc that you can buy from Merc in the New California Republic for 1,000 Fallout Wasteland coins. That's a lot of Nuka-Colas. The layout is identical to the one of Vault 13, if you decide to explore here. Upon entering, there is a long tunnel, and after some point breaks off in two diverged directions, east to one room and to the north for another one. And you can see construction signs all around the zone. Okay, now we are going straight to the hated Vault-Tec workshop to visit a quarry. Vault 88. Beneath Quincy Quarries lies a secret. This vault was intended to test various prototype devices with the aim of distributing them to the rest of the vaults. The vault was never finished, so with only the main entrance, security, and the reactor rooms, the bombs dropped and, well, obviously the work stopped, but still was mildly functional as the Overseer lived to tell the tale. You can get here on Fallout 4, and the first time you approach this vault, a group of raiders are trying to force their way in, and this event was in the first place the reason for an emergency broadcast calling for help. Overseer Barstow is in the meantime saying that their efforts are futile. Once the raiders are dealt with, the sole survivor, ourselves, can activate the control panel with the Pip-Boy. So now inside we can talk with the Overseer and find a mission that asks us to reactivate the workshop from a caved-in corridor. If you do this, then you can start unlocking sections of the vault, and once everything is unlocked, then the subway exterior entrance and the pharmacy exterior entrance are the only limit to your expansive workspace. A cool detail to remain useful after getting here. Now, talking about the layout, we have a certain number of chambers and passageways that are occupied with a certain number of feral ghosts, and one named called Security Chief Anderson. So this says that at the very least, some people lived here when this wasn't finished, also during our expedition inside here. Adding the several feral ghouls that we have here, another one is named Julian, after unlocking the 3 workshops during the exploration. Then we find a legendary Deathclaw near a wall that can be scrapped. Also, you can open an entrance near Milton General Hospital and get a lot of nuclear material scrapping all the uranium here. Crossing the tunnel to the north, we can get to the East Sector workshop, and a Mirelurk is waiting for us here, so we can say that this place is more than your typical run-of-the-mile location and is actually very dangerous, featuring many enemies and 2 big ones, one of them being a legendary leveled one. If you want to put people here as a settlement, this has one unique characteristic. Vault 88 can hold 10 or more settlers than the normal ones, and is by far the largest settlement in terms of places where you can actually build things. Spectacle Island is the second one, so you can imagine the comparison. The experiment designed a certain plan that involved radiation-based enhancement of Overseer authority. We only find glimpses of information here and there, so we may never know more than what I explained, or something is escaping me, but the vault remains mostly a mystery for me. We talked about vaults unfinished willingly, but what about one with an idea and the residents actually there? Vault 118. This unfinished vault was buried beneath the Cliff's Edge Hotel and was advertised as the most elite of the elite hotels in a clandestine area of the main hotel. But this had a purpose: attract the test subjects of appropriate wealth and status drawn to the privilege and exclusivity. Remember that Vault-Tec promoted in a very exaggerated way, so a extra elite hotel was sold as the very best of the best. The plan was to get everything ready and handpick the 10 ultra-rich areas that the residents would dream of, all catered by a robotic staff. With that ready, we got to the second section section of the plan and the start of the experiment. At the activation notice, in the event of the Great War, the residents from the local working class were called for the opening, and these subjects were taken by the exclusive areas of the vault when they entered, and after that, confined to the cramped second wing. Rich individuals would be placed above all legal restrictions in their interactions with the second group, so the 300 people would be in uncomfortable, cramped conditions, and any breach of the rules would be judged by the rich, with any judgment executed by the robotic staff. The vault was programmed to remain sealed until results for the test could be determined, whatever the time would it be. Now we talked about the plans and how it was supposed to happen. Now let's talk about what really happened. First problem was that key financier, Ezra Parker, simply stopped funding the effort, alleging troubles extracting payments from the guests, and he actually got the first group of investors. So after that, the project had to shift in an urgent sort of way. With the international situation becoming very tense, the head of the project convinced them that the only exit to outlast the war is to have their brains inserted into robo-brains. When the Great War erupted, this vault was sealed and the only human inside became the sole remaining human. The robo-brains continued existing until at some point a murder forced them to seek help from the outside, specifically from a detective. Now traveling to the vault in Fallout 4, the sole survivor can tell them that he is the detective and the door will open. This will lead us to explore the mystery and find a solution. If you want the spoiler, then brace up. Every robo-brain is homicidal, with the exception of Ezra Parker and one of the two that you can talk to, being comparatively sane and in denial, or directly unaware of the fact that the war ended just a few hours ago, and you can't tell them too. The vault is kind of functional and is actually a good place, but nowhere near the luxury promised at first, and also the construction was cut off, so it was kind of small, but not as small as one can imagine. A cut-off construction, would you imagine? Also, the luxury and ultra-elite hotel is nowhere to be seen. Another thing, the Overseer office is in the right corner of the atrium, and inside you can find the skeleton of him, as you find a skeleton wearing the Vault 118 jumpsuit and the Overseer terminal. Rich people would basically obliterate the general population here, but as a matter of destiny or poetical justice, the only ones who lost themselves were those that wanted to control the lesser power people, because those same people didn't want to pay in full. Hey, do you like the Enclave? Yeah, me neither, but we can find some interesting things here. Vault 120, a cut vault, tech vault? Yeah, what a surprise. But as we know that some vaults could have been constructed by third parties, well, we have to be sure. We have the information and the general layout, geometry, and a bit of his story, but still this vault remains part of the Fallout 4 cut content. Lucky for us, the Creation Club is not hell in person. Also have some Bethesda-approved mods that remains canon. One of them revolves around Vault 120. The adventure and planning would involve fighting a giant squid that was sentient inside the vault. And as a kind of plot twist, the squid would have been the Vault Overseer. Cool, right? We have some in-game files and geometry, but still is impossible to recover all the quest line of 20 Leagues Under the Sea, as we don't have essentials like the dialogues. But judging by the markers, this vault is still populated, and you could get there together with Captain Zhao and a person named James aboard the Yangtze submarine. The questline supposedly offered 2 resolutions to the quest, and before arriving, we can find that the vault dwellers were fighting something on their own, perhaps the squid itself. We don't have much information about the storyline, and the vault remains unfinished in terms of gameplay and story, but canonically, if the vault is supposed to remain canon as the mod of Workshop suggests, then was canonically finished, but we may never know as some areas were heavily tested but still remained a bit stale to be live on the game. Talking a lot about experimentation reminded me of a very sinister character, Care to Know Who, Vault 96. The residents were told that to rebuild the entire ecosystems, they had to live in this vault full of gene banks and cryogenic storage bays. Vault 96 was intended for maintaining a lot of people alive through time, or at least that was what the residents hoped for. This vault was made up of a small team of brilliant scientists, and as an arc for preserving the future through the flora and fauna, but oh surprise, everything was a ruse. Nobody is surprised at this point, to be honest. You get in here and then the vault is sealed with you inside, then you get the rude awakening. It was revealed that the staff is being forced to perform certain sinister experiments. For example, some related to genetics and mutations, having certain quotas set by the own vault mainframe. I still had my doubts about being forced to perform experiments, but that happened. We don't know at what point exactly, but a failed escape attempt killed the original residents. They still had in reserve the cryonics, but it eventually froze over, and this far from stopping the experiments, a whole more malevolent entity appeared. Dr. Edgar Blackburn was still living at the moment that his team was still living, and used the vault resources for his work on Forcer evolutionary virus. Oh yeah, here is something terrible and very famous happened on Appalachia. For now, let's backtrack a bit. Vault 96's public mission was to simply monitor the post-war surface conditions and the damage caused to the fauna and species, and in ultimate instance, restore in a genetical level the local fauna and the reintroduction of species lost, all this to restore the ecological balance. As I revealed it before, once the vault was sealed, the mission received an addendum to the residents, and revealed the true mission. Put serious attention here. They required the overseer to distribute to the residents certain quotas to develop and explore things like mutated fauna and genetic experimentations. To develop countermeasures, it was not that bad to be honest, but remember that honesty wasn't in the Vault-Tec language. Additionally, a secret cryogenics bay was installed containing a mysterious entity known as X-001, and the bay was only accessible to automated research systems. This vault had an extremely interesting role for every person involved. For starters, there were only 5 humans on the team, confirmed by different highly specialized people, and a quota to meet, and every time they got it, credits were added to their accounts. The staff maintained credits by forcing experiments and mutations upon creatures and having them fighting each other. Yeah, Pokemon style in Fallout settings. This stayed that way for a whole 3 years, documenting everything within the vault, and beginning with simple things like accelerating natural processes like electrogenesis or regeneration, and all the way to chameleonization, pyrokinesis, and cryokinesis. The specimen X-01 at week 142 entered into play, giving to the experimented creatures different skills like the teleportation when a creature is stressed out. At the end, this was abandoned because the access to that specimen was restricted, having 0 documentation and remaining mysterious. Fast forward to week 148, the access to the specimen remained restricted, and the lack of ability to improve this mutation killed one of the scientists, as the quota wasn't met, and that meant death. The rest of the team confronted the leader, but he disabled the monitoring system, showing that he wasn't responsible, and also added to the revelation that he has been quietly working on a space plan because he has been a prisoner the same as everyone else. He developed a computer virus and was capable of taking over and defeating the mainframe intelligence, hoping that it would put down the mainframe, shutting it down, and then escaping the day before the quota deadline. Sadly, on the day of the escape, everything went wrong. The virus was going well, but the mainframe survived the hit and activated the superseding protocol Omega, resealing the vault with the virus still inside and killing all the residents. Still, the virus finally did its work and left the vault open so the animals began to escape. So in this vault, literally, nobody survived. Even the main system. Kinda strange, but it is what it is. What makes it appear in this video is that some areas are incomplete, like certain wings on the vault, and this is canonical, effectively revealing that they halted construction but still went ahead with the vault experimentation. A kinda strange decision, but they also added a secret bay for the specimen X-001, so I don't have much more to add. Vault-Tec ways are mysterious. The next case, a bit strange, is an unfinished vault and was expanded in gameplay Vault 63. A strange mix of the vault being unfinished canonically and the fact that Fallout 76 is a service game, so in some point over the Skyline Valley, Update was expanded, but is still considered an unfinished vault. Located in the ash heap under Dark Hollow Manor in the Shenandoah National Park of Appalachia, in the previously named Fallout 76. In my opinion, one of the most interesting locations, and the exploration is really interesting. This vault was constructed via a member of the Vault-Tec Board of Directors and his wife, Hugo Stoltz. They felt that war was imminent, and they were seeking the best location that could give them the greatest amount of power that they could have in a supposed post-apocalyptic society. Still, the board would not approve this type of vaults, so they intelligently pitched this vault as a research facility that could achieve greater benefit for the company. As such, they pitched it as a vault for holding and researching various technologies that could help Vault-Tec postulate and defend its own societies post-war. The construction was far from normal, as they were planning assets and personnel from the government-shuttered Atlas program to create Vault-Tec Guardian robots and large-scale robots. These schemes were stolen from the Department of Defense. Also, the permission to construct there was negotiated by Hugo with the condition that he would allow the community to live there, as he was driving the community of Dark Hollow Falls off their own land. But with that condition, they tolerated the construction. The twist was, as always, when the moment of the vault being sealed at the moment of the Great War, Hugo betrayed his deal with the community and drove them off. The vault remained sealed, and for 2105, the tunnels leading out were sealed by earthquakes. Oh boy. Clarifying, at this point the process of being constructed was far from finished. They received the radiation almost in full and started seeing the effects in life. Some of the residents quickly ghoulified, others, without that much luck, began to go feral. One of the earliest was Hugo Hugo's brother. The entire vault shifted gear to reverse or prevent feralization, even at the very least stop the process or briefly alleviate the effects. This by direct order from him, as Hugo's wife Cassidy started transforming into feral. Without clues, but with a lot of luck, it was discovered that the exposure to the weather control machine in the sector of meteorology could briefly alleviate the effects. And with that info, Hugo secretly activated the vault's unfinished machine at full power. This helped, and at the same time, worsened the situation. He was able to prevent the feral condition, but put her into a coma. All the other inhabitants transformed into ferals on a different kind of branch, the ones called Lost. This liberated a whole carnage between former friends and colleagues. Worth it? For Hugo, it completely was. Fast forward to 2105, Hugo tried it again, activated the machine in a kind of all-or-nothing movement. Aware that it could kill him and her, he wasn't completely against that plan if he was still to continue living a solitary life. The second activation ruptured the nearby land and caused a massive electrical storm. The still-living residents of the vault were affected by a tremendous amount, so they were contained in pods, with the promise and hope of someday reversing that and curing them. Cassidy revived a tiny bit, making eye contact and following his footsteps, but still remained in the middle of kinda a lost. Our information ends with the wish of Hugo to activate the weather machine a third time. Gameplay-wise, you can explore a lot of the vault, and the second activation destroyed the outer part of the door and created a crater. The vault was hidden, and now is completely on the open. It's not like it was destroyed for anyone to enter, but a significant amount of the vault was damaged. And with that, we covered 7 of the most interesting unfinished vaults. If you enjoyed this video and want to see Fallout 4's most terrifying locations explained, click the video on screen.